Hey guys.
Hello.
Hey Nancy, we're here together again.
Yes. It's kind of different.
We've literally been working in our office all day. So it's kind of a big work day. But the last time we were on together, we got so many great compliments that we decided to do it again for you guys. And we have a lot to talk about. So as you know, because we told you last night, the school board met again today to talk about the social studies standards, a couple of other things, and Nancy's going to get to that in a few. She's got all the lowdown on that, but I wanted to talk again tonight about the situation. The conflict of interest is coming out of the DPI. So the top deputy to Catherine Truitt has some ethics challenges, we think. He has a wife who is a lobbyist for critical race theory educational institutions. And so we don't know how you could be against critical race theory, but have your top deputy have a wife who lobbies for critical race theory. And these products, these institutions are paid by taxpayer funds. Let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to break this down as we always do and show you exactly what we're talking about. So the one company that she's a rep for it's called the North Carolina Virtual Academy. So it's Stride Incorporated. And so it's a charter. Charters are not, they're typically very good. We love that as a part of school choice. But just keep your eye on this. So Stride is the company that Jamie Falkenberry's wife is a lobbyist for. Stride, right? Stride is at the North Carolina Virtual School. So just keep your eye on that. And now I'm going to show you who does the teacher training. Nancy, what would be the worst person possible to do the teacher training, in your opinion?
Well, there are a couple groups I sincerely dislike, but it seems like it would be a very, very much a conflict of interest with someone who is on the state school board. And I think a person who's on the state school board who also does trainings is Mr. Ford.
Right. Ding, ding. You get a cookie.
Thank you.
So this charter school, this NC charter school, as you can see here, this is James Ford, who sits on the school board, radical James Ford. This is his disclosure form. And as you can see, he does professional development for North Carolina virtual public school staff. Okay. For those of you that are not familiar with Mr. Ford, I'm going to share with you just a couple of his greatest hits. And so here's what he thinks about cops. He retweets this. The problem here is not lack of police power. It's that the police are inherently on the side of white supremacists.
Sorry.
Do not use this as a reason to give police money, power, legitimacy, or authority. So, that kind of guy training a staff, it's really something that we need to make sure comes to a halt. But that's nothing. He's not a big fan of white women either. Let's see if I can get this one up. So James Ford, who sits on the school board now, he's really in the driving force position, if you will, with the social studies standards and critical race theory in the state. So the entire debate is about white women demographic, formerly made invisible in its perpetuation of white supremacy, naturally.
Yeah, white supremacy.
Suddenly being identified precisely. Karen may be pejorative, but it ain't a slur, y'all. This archetype is brilliant and accurate. They just can't deal with being outed. Okay, so, forget.
I'm sorry.
Well, forget about the fact that, he's talking about his constituents. He's talking about teachers, because some of them are white. He's talking about parents. He doesn't really give a darn. And so this kind of guy should not be training teachers, period. But we know that he is training. Nancy, you're getting a kick out of this.
It's just such a circus. I'm sorry. Okay, I'll stop.
Well, you don't have to stop, but it's a big deal. And so this kind of guy, here's another thing that James Ford writes about cops. Law enforcement in the U.S. is historically rooted in dehumanization of Black bodies, and that part cannot be reformed. It's a totally different justice system for white people. So this is the guy who does the teachers training for North Carolina Virtual Academy. The lobbyist for North Carolina Virtual Academy is the wife of the top deputy of Catherine Truitt. So again, I'm going to repeat, if you are against critical race theory, you cannot have a top deputy that is your right-hand man You cannot have his wife lobbying for this while the rest of us out here are lobbying against it.
Right.
You can't have that. So I want to share with you a couple of other things here because I think it's really important. So, we're for honesty.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to also stand for the truth, as I hope every leader does, certainly the leader of our education system, you cannot have a guy who lies on his forms in your office, right? So I'm going to show you, there's an SEI form. So this is a form that everybody, in government has to fill out, and it makes sense, right? If you've got a conflict of interest, you've got to get it out there. So let's look at February 1st, Jamie Falkenberry's SEI form on February 1st. So this is asking, are you or your immediate family involved in a nonprofit, right, that is involved with education? So February 1st, we have, yes, my wife is lobbying for Waterford Institute. It's a pre-K, it's a nonprofit. And does that nonprofit have any business with the state? He puts none or not known. That is a lie. This group gets funded by the state, and it did when Jamie Falkenberry was in Dan Forrest's office, and it does now. The Waterford pre-K does get funding. So I didn't know, doesn't seem like it's going to work here. And again, if you stand for the truth, you cannot stand for something like that. All right. So that's number one. That was February 1st. As we pointed out, he's filed several of them. This is what we're looking at right now. This is going to be February 24th. So he goes 3 weeks later, he files another one. This is the same question. Okay. So now he's again putting known, none or not known. So he is saying again, he does not know whether or not they are doing business with the state. He's saying he does not know. He's claiming he does not know. Now, remember, guys, this guy is Truitt's top deputy. He's actually lobbying at the DPI. In other words, he is working at the DPI, and he's going to the General Assembly saying, hey, here's our programs, please fund them. So he's actually arguing for the funding, theoretically, of programs like this of his wife. So let me show you another form of his. Again, he filed three of them right in a row. This is the last one that he filed on the 15th, okay? The 15th of April, pardon me. Again, he is 3 times saying, my wife does not have anything to do with state funding. Her clients don't have anything to do with state funding. Our records indicate that that's just simply not true. And that's just one of a couple things. So again, if you stand for the truth and you want your office to be looked at in an honest way, you're going to have to come clean about this, right? This is not something that we want. And then finally, I want to show you guys this. I want to see if I can turn it around, but I don't think I can. Are you able to see that? You're not able to see that up close. Let's see if I can magnify it a little bit. Okay. Well, this is the return address here, label for the ethics complaint we sent. We sent that out, I think, 10 days ago. Catherine Truitt, I guess, has been telling people that we never actually sent the ethics complaint. We brought receipts. We actually sent it. And so, again, if you stand for critical race theory, you cannot have a top deputy who his wife, and that's household money, right, lobbies again completely for products completely not in keeping with that. My gosh. James Ford training the staff of this charter.
Yeah, well, plus, isn't Jamie Falkenberry now on the committee for charter schools?
Well, yes, he is.
Yeah.
So
they handle the North Carolina virtual charter, which is a Stride platform, or on the Stride platform.
Well, yes, I think that's true. And I want to show that in a minute. According to our records, Catherine Truitt appointed Jamie Falkenberry to a non-voting role on the North Carolina Charter School Advisory Board. And he's asked in one of these forms, I'll get it up there in a minute, he's asked, do you oversee the business of anyone in your family? And he put no. And so if in fact, and according to public records, she appointed him to sit on that board, and if he's sitting on that board and regulating his wife's client, that is a conflict of interest. The DPI today has told people, we do not have a conflict of interest. And Education First Alliance did not file an ethics complaint, so there's nothing to see here. There's everything to see here.
I am not necessarily, invested politically. I just want the education to be a trustworthy institution that my tax dollars go towards.
They work for us.
And it seems to me like this is fairly problematic to have your secondhand person who lobbies the General Assembly for money for these programs that in part James Ford, wants to implement. You have a wife at the same time at the law firm that represents
the lobbying
educational,
firm.
The educational platforms that are dealing in systemic racism and CRT and courses based on CRT practice. So.
Right. And so we have, again, if you stand for the truth, you cannot have this. Right. And if you stand for, against critical race theory, you cannot have this. So now let's go ahead and talk about what happened today. I mean, we watched the entire presentation today with Catherine Truitt, with the DPI, with her staff in front of the school board, and they dealt with a lot of things. The first thing, and I just want to say this before I forget it, because I will, they're arguing, the DPI is arguing actually to get more staff. They're arguing for more staff to this bloated organization that got an F for the social studies standards. And they were patting themselves on the back or excusing it, normalizing getting an F, saying, oh, we get an F and a D every year.
Yeah, that was funny. Yeah, so they were asking for more members of a bureaucracy. And I'm asking consistently, we need fewer. And we need accountability.
Teachers' raises. We want good teachers. We believe they deserve a pay raise. No more $100,000 a year stupid jobs at the DPI.
More liaisons.
More fraud potentially. Look, the DPI manages, I think, 56% of the budget of the state budget in North Carolina. That is a ton of money. And so when you talk about corruption, where's the first place we would look?
Yeah, it makes sense. And there's how can they deserve more employees when this social studies rollout has been so controversial and so miscommunicated and problematic to the point where they were even, taking things directly off of websites from CRT websites without citations.
Do you mean plagiarizing?
Yeah, plagiarizing.
So we've got plagiarizing, we've got getting a D and an F on the standards, and we are constantly being told that, hey guys, focus on the district level.
Yeah.
Even though the DPI manages a lion's share of the budget, taxpayers, don't look up here.
Yeah, don't worry if they want to expand and add more people without holding any accountability for the people that were involved with these problems in the first place. And then, let's ignore teachers' pay and that kind of thing, or not even ignore it. Let's just add it to the pile. Keep adding money. Keep feeding the beast.
Right. When money needs to go to the students to recover for learning loss. Period. It's been so diluted and so watered down. I'm going to show you a chart of where we are again. But let's talk about the standards. So what happened, Nancy? Tell us.
Well, they did get to the point. There were a couple other concerning things during the meeting too, but they did get to the point where they were proposing the supporting documents, the curriculum unpacking documents for 6 through 12. And Dr. Carlin, who's been on this from the very beginning, and Dr. Stegall, also in charge of this from the very beginning, presented it. And it was interesting because I caught, and I didn't transcribe it down directly, but I caught Dr. Carlin presenting that, the unpacking documents, well, we already know that all the teachers teach about the Revolutionary War and World War I, so we weren't really going to go there, and we're just going to, add a lot of subjects that maybe they aren't aware of. So they're assuming that teachers already handle some of these topics, and that's their excuse for not incling some pretty important.
So in other words, this is just a helpful hint and a resource. So I want to put up here for you, because every time I do it, you guys are like, wow. And we're all like, wow. So they're playing games. They want to add to the staff. They want to do all these things. Look at this. This is what you're looking at right now, 3rd to 8th grade reading and math scores in North Carolina longitudinally. This yellow star right here, this is this is when they voted on Common Core and it was enacted. Look at the racial achievement gap here that's just been exploded. This is what you're looking at right here. This is white, this is Asian, and this is Black students. Common Core has over the years, and we still have versions of it now, has exploded the racial achievement gap. And they're messing around with social studies standards. Maybe $1 million rewriting it and writing it. How much money did we waste? How much money that could have gone to students? That money needs to go directly to students to fix that.
Right. How are students going to, even if you say systemic racism is fact and we haven't been addressing it, how are students who can't read and can't do basic math going to legitimately address this issue? I mean, adults can't even handle it. And now we're going to put it on K through 5 kids in there and teach them about their lived experiences, and they can't even read or write.
Right, because what you're talking, I mean, look, most experts agree. In fact, our lieutenant governor agrees. His position is, and it's one I agree with very much so, 1st through 5th grade is where children learn how to read, write, and excel in mathematics. That is it. What they've done is packed in now this social studies bullcrap that the Fordham Institute was like, wait, this is not age appropriate at all. And then they're packing in the SEL. And so what they're not doing, and you can tell by the graph I just put up, they're not focusing on the basics.
Right. And, it was interesting because they did, I don't know if it was preemptive or knew about the Fordham Institute potential criticism. So they did bring that up and ask Dr. Stegall to respond to it. And he had a written statement that he read, and he talked about that there was no equitable, they use equity in like every other sentence. They have to force it in there. There was no equitable way to evaluate these particular standards. And he went on to describe that these standards are meant to be conceptual and meant to be broad. And there's a lot of, they want input at the state level or at the local level, sorry. So they're intentionally broad and I guess a little vague on the state level so that local LEAs can, insert their own curriculum. But then he also went on to say that the Fordham Institute didn't even take into account the curriculum supporting documents.
Thank God.
So I was kind of like, well, why? You've been saying all along that it's all local control and the emphasis is on the local control and our curriculum documents don't really have to be that important. Now you're complaining that the Fordham Institute didn't take into consideration the supporting documents, and that would automatically change our grade from an F to what, a B?
Well, Massachusetts got an A. It consistently gets an A. And so what I want to know is why can't we get an A? They're sitting there backslapping about getting a D and an F, that they get one every year in this state. We deserve better than this.
Yeah.
That graph I showed you in 2012, we were number 19 in the country. We are number 38 right now.
Yeah.
And why should we contribute to expanding this program that can't even, figure out their right shoe from their left? This looks like the Keystone Cops. It's not a joke. And I'm telling you right now, reversing that.
It is the Keystone Cops.
It is the Keystone Cops.
This is the same team that presented the plaplagiarized glossary. So what do you expect?
And
so his response to the Fordham Institute is not only that he wants it both ways, where he wants to say, well, our curriculum documents, supporting documents are so amazing and so important, and the Fordham Institute didn't take that into consideration. But to the people, they don't really matter that much. It's local control.
This is politics. So what we have, we have political hacks that are running the education department, and it needs to stop. No one seems to know what they're doing. Everyone is telling mistruths. Some are telling out and out lies. You've got a corrupt person who's the deputy up there, and then the superintendent saying they're not corrupt, they're not conflicted. Yeah. No one is telling the truth. This is pure partisan politics. It's not even partisan politics. It's actually, Catherine Truitt is rubber stamping the NCAE. Is
Yeah.
what it, I mean. You couldn't even have it any better.
They have no
for
idea.
them.
I mean, and even
Not for the
Stegall
students.
continued on. He talked about how these standards are deeper ways of understanding and teach kids conceptual ideas and treat them as part of a team rather than just individuals being tested on memorized materials. And I'm like, our kids can't read. They can't do math.
Well,
and they're going to be part of a team figuring out how to solve systemic racism and appreciating diversity in K through 5. And
they're robbing our children. They're robbing our children.
And a D is a big deal because he also said that Fordham Institute has always given North Carolina Ds. So really, it's not that big of a deal. And I thought that that was the worst thing to say ever. I mean,
so they're celebrating a D and an F. They're plagiarizing, celebrating a D and an F. And so why in the hell are they allowed to lead
if that's
our public school system?
Mediocrity, I don't know what does.
Well, it screams failure to me. This is a problem.
That's what I'm saying. Let's not bother to try harder because we always do D anyway.
Well, this is a problem. This is a problem we've been talking about, and it is our mission to eradicate this problem. And we do it by educating you guys on what's going on. It's been a very, very long time that no one knows what's going on. We had a couple of people write in last night about what conservative journalists that we're talking about, what's going on. Well, we have a conservative outlet that we're not going to name that refuses to tell you the truth of what's going on with the social studies standards, refuses to tell you about the flip-flopping that's been going on. The children are being shortchanged, and they're so doggedly pursuing carrying the water for Catherine Truitt. Look, this is not about a person. It is about the education of 1.5 million children. People are playing politics. That's people that are traditionally on our side.
Right.
We're calling them out.
Yeah.
They're shortchanging you guys, and they're not putting information into your hands. 1.5 million children in the public school system right now. This is a joke. This is a joke, and this is taxpayer money going down the tube. And I'm sorry, they want to expand the DPI? Hell no is the answer.
Right. There is no justification for that right now. They haven't even dealt with this issue. Going forward with the curriculum supporting documents for 6 through 12, all of the Republican-minded members voted against. So the final vote, again, was 6-5 to pass it. But Oxendine, White, Chasteen, Robinson, and Falwell all voted no. At the end, Truitt gave a statement after the vote, and she talked about the standards, I think, because this report from the Fordham Institute that was picked up kind of forced her hand. She did call out Stegall's comments about, the "will you always get a D" was a bit lame, and she started talking about her concerns about the standards and why they aren't a real statement of, there's no real statement of essential knowledge, and started almost, to me, comparing to her statements in the past regarding the standards in the curriculum documents. It was a 180.
This whole thing is disingenuous, and I have to tell you again, people on our side are covering for this, and people on our side are being very disingenuous and saying, "Hey, parents, hey, concerned teachers, hey, public, do not look at the state. The state has nothing. Whatever they're doing there, and I know they control lion's share of the budget, et cetera. It has no bearing. It absolutely does have bearing." So I want to address this. Kayla, you're exactly right. When you're trying to put in a political agenda, then chronology doesn't matter. In fact, what they're doing with critical race theory, as we've told you, they're trying to weaponize 400-year-old history to stereotype, to scapegoat, to demonize, to collectively punish children. That's what they're trying to do. So that takes a little bit of reworking, if you will, and chronological order be damned. The reason why none of it makes sense is because the standards are to achieve a radical agenda.
Yeah.
Now, I'm telling you right now, North Carolina is one of only 3 states in the union with critical race theory coming from the top down. That's why we focus on it. First, it was California with ethnic studies. Then it was North Carolina, and a close third came Illinois. Illinois is mandating culturally responsive teaching for all teachers. We have that, and we have the ethnic studies curriculum all rolled up into one. In fact, what I'm saying is, this is so dire because we've got someone who is absolutely lying to us at the DPI. We have people covering for her. We are as bad as California and Illinois. right now.
What reporters have discussed the differences in the glossary? What reporters have asked the hard questions of Truett? Is she going to remove anyone from the social studies standards team or whoever because of that problematic glossary? I mean, that was basic things. You do not plagiarize. You do not teach your kids to plagiarize. If they do in school, they're in big trouble in theory. And our state educators at the highest level are going to put out standards based on plagiarized terms. And they got caught. And where's the accountability?
By us.
What journalists are tweeting or reporting about that and asking the questions, hey, how did this happen? How are we going to investigate? How are we going to address this so this never happens again? Instead, it's, well, today Catherine Truett supported more specific standards in chronological order, so that's awesome, and she's going to work on a template, so that's awesome. And I'm like, yeah, so we just had 6 months of support from our elected leader.
How much money have we spent on this? How much money have we spent on this? This is not a game.
It's not.
So who's reporting on that? We're reporting on that. So the winners and the losers of this. Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson nailed it. He came out and said the standards are going to fail our children.
Exactly.
He cares about the children. He's got common sense. Anyone with common sense could look at it and say,
this is a problem.
This is a crock. This is a failure. We should not go through with it. Catherine Truett, on the other hand, said, so many wonderful people have spent 2 years working on this, and we have to get it done as quickly as possible. And by the way, that's not unlike what James Ford said.
Right.
That's
not
James
unlike Ford made that comment the whole
James
time.
Ford made the same argument. That is not unlike what the NCAE said.
Yeah.
It's not unlike what any progressives have said, is that we don't give a damn about getting it right. We want the agenda. We want the agenda passed. Now that it's blowing up in the DPI's face, publicly she's changing her tune. Again, it never ends. We think, wow, things are going to turn around, and damned if they don't. And we're going to keep an eye.
Until they hold people accountable. I mean, again,
there's no accountability.
Words versus actions. How, even if you produce a new template that's amazing and wonderful and gets an A from the Ford Institute, how are you going to execute it with a bunch of people who come up with lame arguments or plagiarize glossaries,
or lie, or perhaps lie on their disclosure forms and file? Who files 3 disclosure forms in a row? You file once a year, 3 in a row, as if to correct themselves. We have from February 1st to April 15th. We have 3 in a row, and none of them come clean. If you can't even hold your own staff members accountable,
I mean, it's just astonishing.
It's not leadership.
If I were in a leadership position, in leading a team, and one of the members of the team presented, such unethical supporting documents, I would be so embarrassed, and I would immediately be handled.
I wouldn't work with you anymore.
Yeah,
and that's a true story. I mean,
I'd figure out a way.
And
I've done that. With junior residents or whatever. You figure out a way. This is a danger. This is a problem.
What example does this set? I mean, anyone who will not hold Jamie Falconberry accountable. His wife, again, is a lobbyist, as we showed you, for critical race theory products. He and her have been attacking the hell out of us. We never knew why. And it's because we and you guys are so successful at pushing back critical race theory. And look, if James Ford is training the teachers at the virtual academy, what do you think is going to happen when House Bill 324 passes the Senate and there can be no more critical race theory training? It will make it a very inhospitable environment for the clients of his wife.
People are making a lot of money off of this. And you're right.
Yes, Kayla.
To say, what's the deal with it? I don't know. It was so vague, and who knows what the timing of it is, or what it means, or if it means when they're addressing the standards 5 to 7 years from now. What I'm concerned about is the fact that there's been no accountability, and it's going to be the same people working on it. So it's just
critical race theory is law.
It's more bureaucratic nonsense.
Thanks to Catherine Truett, we are the 3rd state to have critical race theory from the top down. That is a material fact. You cannot lie about that. That is the fact. So it is codified right now. White supremacy, white privilege, gender identity, systemic racism, and one more thing. Catherine Truett has codified critical race theory in North Carolina from the state down. We will not stop focusing on the state. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
No one has focused on what the heck is going on from the state. We've got we've got critical race theory coming from the top, and we've also got SEL, social emotional learning. We've been talking a lot about this. This is another version of Common Core, and it is far worse than Common Core.
It's going to push academics aside. There won't be room for academics.
Well, Catherine Truitt is pushing for no grading. Does Catherine Truitt have a code of ethics policy? Cheryl, we need to explore that right quick and in a hurry.
There is one. I've seen
ASA yesterday. Yeah. And I would argue that if you put one of your employees up to lobby for money for the state for something that your wife could benefit for, that seems to me like a question that we would need answered.
Yeah, there's also one other thing I want to say before I forget that I picked up on the same meeting too, and I know you did one too. So they're requesting to expand the NCDPI directly, but I think they're also requesting to kind of expand it indirectly. And what I'm talking about is something called the NCEducationCorps.org. And it's presented as a tutoring program, K through 3, through various counties throughout the state. And I think it started with helping outreach for COVID. And that's great.
And it sounds like a great idea.
It's great.
Yeah.
I love the idea of people going in and providing extra help for teachers and focusing on reading K through 3. That's absolutely what we need. On the board of it, or a subboard or advisory portion, Mr. Ford was appointed. Mr. Black Panthers, Let's Support Vesperman and Communism, James Ford, and as learned in the board meeting, or in the board education meeting today, they're going to potentially ask for public funding from the General Assembly. So a tax dollar supported educational program. Another one with the same people from the Board of Education, Truitt, Ford, same people, all connected with tax dollars. So it's almost like a mini traveling NCDPI, or it's another.
Let me get another tweet up here from our BFF. I mean, this is James Ford again. I mean, we toyed around with calling the DPI the James Ford DPI because Catherine Truitt. Lindy just asked a question about, hey, what's Truitt's motivation? I mean, I can't get into someone's head and heart, but pandering to James Ford is what she always did. Why? Why would she do that? Well, the first act when she came into office was to hire a couple of James Ford's close associates.
Yep.
Not conservatives, way far left here. So this is James Ford. I don't know who needs to hear this, but white supremacists is a self-cannibalizing worldview. It'll sooner destroy all of us and reform itself. Apply accordingly, but I don't know what else to tell you. It's a parasitic philosophy that kills its host. None are exempt. James Ford thinks everybody with white-colored skin is a white supremacist. So he's basically saying that white people are going to kill everyone, and oh my God, look out. Remember, there are white students that he presides over. There are white teachers, and there are white parents and white colleagues. He doesn't care. This man, any of his acolytes, should never be hired. And yet, that is precisely what Catherine Truitt has done.
And we were lied to about that too, because we were told
absolutely
that the person hired was just related via work from the No Kids Hungry program. And actually, she has retweeted multiple
Julie Pittman
Ford tweets and has registered for his training.
Correct. And so again, you know, why does this matter? Honesty matters. Honesty matters. Integrity matters when it's coming from the top. This is the highest education elected official that we have. Again, there's plenty of blame to go around. We blame Cooper constantly.
Oh, Cooper yeah.
I mean, that's a known product. But someone who is administering the educational programs in K through 12, we have something to say. Now, we've talked to a lot of conservative school board members who, and we believe them, have told us if we wanted to, we could not extricate ourselves from the social studies standards or SEL. And so, in other words, they're being kind of hemmed in here by stuff going on at the state. Lindy, another possibility is that let's follow the money, right? If there's a lot of federal funding for this, and if they know they can get state funding for this, and we know that people are getting kickbacks. How do we know? Look at Woodard Deputy. If there's money for this, I would imagine that would be a powerful motivator as well. But to me, there's no daylight between her and the NCAE.
Yeah. Well, if anything, this should teach people who are elected to conservative positions. I mean, the whole Common Core fiasco, where there's a bunch of federal money coming into the states with the states not really understanding what the curriculum was or not being involved in that development. And we all know what a disaster that was, and we have that graph. You would think that elective representatives would learn from that mistake and not do it again and be even stronger against, hey, these federal funds, we got to be really suspicious because they have strings attached. And in fact, Dan Forrest, with Jamie Falkenberry in attendance as his educational advisor, said that very thing about Common Core back in 2013 in a symposium. He said, you have to be so careful with these federal funds because there are strings attached and the wording isn't always, written in a very specific, it doesn't always mean what it says, etc. He's been through all of that. Jamie Falkenberry was there. He's been through all of that. He watched the implementation.
He knows. No one knows more right now in education, arguably,
if anything,
than Jamie Falkenberry.
They should be the first people to say, wait a minute, before we ask for these federal funds and these grants, we got to take a hard look at the situation and see and examine every single aspect of this. And even say, just no, we'll handle it.
Cheryl's exactly right. We need to, and what we've been trying to do is this. We want several programs defunded. And so, again, the central lobbyist, it's called a legislative liaison, is Mr. Jamie Falkenberry. Remember, he's ethically challenged right now. He's also de facto lobbying for his wife. So he's conflicted, right? Is he lobbying for the people of North Carolina and the children of North Carolina, or is he lobbying to fatten his wallet? Right? That's the concern. And so we have been asking them to strike. We're asking them to strike line items from there. Guess who's lobbying against us? The DPI. That's the problem. See, at the snap of a finger, we could get legislators to say, hey, we're not going to support any more programs that contain these surveys, which we've been going to war on.
Right.
We cannot depend on the DPI to do that. They've been arguing against us.
Yeah.
The surveys affect every single school. They come for the top. They're a gross violation of parents' privacy and students' privacy. Again, unfortunately, the district level, keep fighting that fight. If we do not clear these obstacles for you at the state level, we're not going to be successful.
Right. Exactly. I mean, they're asking $3 million for panorama surveys, and they can say all they want. Oh, it's just a little bit of surveys. It's not the, ones based on CRT. It's just some basic stuff coming out of COVID-19. Well, we all know how that works. You never get rid of.
Yeah.
Once you're bought into a thing,
100%.
How are they going to? They won't even. They aren't even holding their own social studies standards people accountable.
Yeah.
So they're gonna let a little bit of panorama in just because of COVID-19.
You can't be trusted. They've proven.
And not. And that'll be it.
You know what I love about you?
I don't think so. What?
The angrier you get, the more you laugh.
Well, at this point, I kind of have to laugh.
I love it. I love it. So,
I mean, it's so.
Yeah.
To me, watching this, it's just such a circus at this point, and and I'm not laughing. I take this is very serious, and like I said, if I didn't laugh about it, I would go and get so angry.
1.5 million children right now. The future of 1.5 million
these
children.
Are kids
right now.
I mean, they are small kids, and kids can do anything if they have the ability to be led towards being able to do anything and to have the reading and writing and math capabilities. And there's so many good teachers that deserve more money and less administration. And there's so
100%
many kids who deserve a strong, solid, foundational education, K through 5. And we should be protecting their innocence, protecting them from difficult adult conversations. There's no reason why a kid in K through 5 has to be taught things that adults can't even handle.
Gender identity. Why the hell is gender identity?
It makes me so angry that someone would manipulate and use a child and take away their chance at learning basics because maybe they don't have the support at home. Maybe their parents don't buy them books. Maybe they don't have access to that stuff. And so their one chance is in public school education. And people are going to take that away for their own personal ideologies and marketing trends is disgusting. It is absolutely disgusting, and it makes me so angry as a physician. And if it could be criminal, I wish it could be criminal. But so I have to laugh at this stuff because otherwise I'm at a total loss.
Well, there you have it. I mean, it is, they're a pariah on children's future. That's what they are. And so, Cheryl, we have been from the very beginning saying this is absolutely not teachers. Look, we can't win this battle without teachers by our side. We have a third. We actually, since Suter Conrad came on, a CMS teacher that cares about children, and this is her calling. We've had over 150 teachers and counselors actually who have come out and said,
very exciting.
We're in this with you. And I can tell you, I would say 70% of all teachers, they do not want to teach this. They're looking for a way to fight back. They need our protection. We are going to defend the civil rights of teachers. I keep saying that over and over again. We're about to show you we really mean business. I mean, we are going to go to the mat for good teachers. Teachers do this as a calling. They should be protected. Yeah. Why are we going to pay DPI employees get paid well, maybe like $100,000? Yeah. That money belongs to the teachers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if HB 324 doesn't get passed under a Republican Congress, and I don't care, they can cry all they want about a Cooper veto, they need to be on record that they stand for this and they stand behind the teachers of this country who are concerned about kids' education and don't want to be bullied and forced into racially divisive incitement, whatever term you want to use. I don't even care, but we got to get the civil rights back into the classroom. It is not a free speech issue. This is not a First Amendment issue. People are teaching a curriculum at a specific point in time based on tax dollars. They can free speech all they want outside, but when they're teaching that curriculum, that's what they're beholden to, and that's what people expect. So the free speech thing is a non-factor.
It's bull, and I can tell you, this is so unfair to teachers. You know why? It's saying, teachers, you're so stupid that we have to tell you what you actually can teach. This is taking away the academic freedom of teachers. And so what I find remarkable is people are bitching about, the CRT law is going to take away free speech. Have you seen the social studies standards?
Yeah.
It's insanity. Look, I mean, we have to give our teachers protection and every right available to them. And we need to get more people standing up and saying, we don't need administrators. We need to give teachers the tools they need in the classroom. Let's hear what they need instead of getting these people 2 years and probably $2 million to craft what they think they need. I find it remarkable that Catherine Truitt croons about, we've had some wonderfully expert people. Rodney Pierce is one of them. You've had the worst examples of teachers you can possibly imagine. The most racialized, angry, hateful teachers. We're not getting good teachers.
The $3 million for panorama surveys. Why are we spending $3 million for data collection surveys when we could be reimbursing teachers, good teachers,
for school supplies, and for instance?
This is a marathon, not a sprint, right? Like, this is years and years of not having the best salary, years of women being able to join other workforce professions like law and medicine, and kind of leaving teacher incentives and prioritizing education, K through 12 education, public education behind. And so we need to recapture, to invite the best and brightest. And
that's right. We want quality.
Reimburse the teachers who are quality, and encourage them to keep going and get behind them. I would put the resources into that and figure out pay scales for that.
Yeah.
And not worry about a third-party data collection panorama.
No. And by the way, North Carolina wants $4 million for a pilot for that.
Yeah.
For instance. So, Lindy, what you're saying is that the teachers are being indoctrinated along with the kids. I have to tell you a couple stories that we've heard over the last couple of weeks. Is that actually I've heard maybe 4 or 5 teachers now, younger teachers, have come to us and said, "Hey, I'm a liberal, and I thought I liked this critical race theory, but in my 3rd equity training, I realized that this is not okay for children." So we have people that are progressive, teachers that are progressive, they're young, and once they're understanding how it feels to be told that you're a white supremacist, or to have to as a teacher be told, hey, you got to go in and see what color skin that the kids have, and then create your lesson plans from there. Once they actually see it, they are changing. So Lindy, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. There's a lot of teachers, and they're very vocal, and they're NCAE teachers, teachers union teachers. But I got to tell you, it's just a few teachers with really big mouths, because there are progressive leaning teachers that are coming to us and saying, we're definitely not joining your group, but want to let you know that the teacher training has turned off a ton of teachers.
Yeah, I wouldn't put up with it. I wouldn't, if I were involved in medicine, in academic medicine now, holy cow, I would be so upset with what's going on in there, and I wouldn't stand for it. I would get up and leave.
Right.
So when people are starting to speak back, there are doctors who are very concerned, who are starting to make more people aware. The problem is a lot of doctors, they're so busy, and they just kind of think it's words, and how do they have time to really deal with this? But we're trying to get their attention too. I'm subtly trying to get some attention of some doctors to empower them to alert other people to how this is actually an indoctrination plan, not a racial equity plan. I'm sorry, that was a bit of a tangent.
Well, no, I mean, Lindy, you should have a lot of hope. And that's why we do these Facebook Lives regularly, because we want to give you a report from the top and the bottom. And there's some things, a lot of people come to us, and they come to us with the expectation of privacy, and that's what they're going to get. We honor that.
Yeah.
But, and that's why we won't bring their names out. There is a lot of hope. We do have a lot of teachers that are not ready to speak out, and they're scared. We have a lot of parents that are not at that stage where they're ready to speak out, and they're scared. And we have actually empowered a lot of parents to have constructive conversations with their principals and teachers, where, they went in very hostile. The parents went in hostile, and they ended up, kind of going along with the teacher and the principal, and there was an exchange of ideas there. And so, look, I mean, nobody is a true devil in all this, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's people dealing with people. And we know that. And so when we zoom into situations, let's remember that. I mean, we're talking about other human beings. I mean, there are people that, again, are lying, misdirecting, and that needs to be dealt with. So to wrap it up, I mean, we have a Common Core battle. Mm-hmm. And those of us who remember what that was like, we know what we have to do. I mean, look, when Common Core came into town, that was a very big deal. And we won a lot of stuff then. I mean, we really took over in terms of conservatives, really just ran the tables in the election. So the danger, though, is that we have people at the top on our side, so Republicans, saying, nothing to see here. Yeah. Yet they are liars. They're liars. They're just telling you, because back in 2012, we were all aligned.
Yeah.
Now they're saying it's not at the state level. It's very much a state level.
Yeah, we really have to. It's gotten to a point in this country, unfortunately. I think Americans in general have had it so good and are a little bit naive and innocent, and don't think that institutions can be taken over, and have kind of relaxed. And now we're realizing, they've been taken over, and we can't always trust what people are saying, and we can't trust that the media is going to report every single detail, and
even on our side.
Yeah, even on our side. And I'm realizing that as I'm listening frantically to as many board meetings as I can get my hands on, so I can try to break it down and communicate what's going on. And Common Core was really bad. This stuff is so much worse, and so unnecessary. And this SEL is projected to be, a multi-billion-dollar business. There's a lot of money in it for a lot of people.
Facebook.
There's a lot of power with the data. People who have the data have power.
Yeah.
And there are going to be positions created in the NCDPI, if they get their Leandro plan through, that have all-seeing power to every bit of data they want to get. People associated with James Ford, people who are pro-equity, who will have this data on people's families and kids, and have ultimate power to poo-poo or propose rules that are quote-unquote equitable. or fair, and who determines fair? It's a very subjective thing. This is very, very bad, and the state needs to be monitored, and they need to know they are being monitored, and they need to know that parents are not going to be intimidated by educational degrees and educrats and elitists. The parents have the common sense, even if they don't have all of the advanced fancy degrees, to know what's in the best interest for their family and their kids.
Yeah, absolutely. And what this is going to do is it's going to drive all scores into the trash. So again, this is not a we care about kids thing that's being done. It's a power grab and it's a money grab. And so, yeah, with that, I mean, Truitt does have a lot of legislators fooled. She doesn't have us fooled, and that's her problem. That's her fundamental problem. She doesn't have us fooled, and we're not stopping. We're not going to stop digging for the truth. We're not going to back down, no matter what. I mean, no matter what, we're in this fight. No matter what they throw at us, we are in this fight. Again, you cannot be against critical race theory and have your top deputy with a wife that is lobbying on the other side. You can't do it. You cannot be against critical race theory and be trying to completely take down the teachers and the parents in the biggest group in North Carolina fighting critical race theory. You can't do it. You cannot be against critical race theory and put back into the glossary white supremacy or white privilege, systemic racism. You cannot. Actions speak louder than words. Her actions are speaking. We are not going to go anywhere. We're going to stay on this. And so that's what I will say. We don't know. We always get asked this, when is your next one? We don't know yet when our next one is. Probably, if history tells us anything, I would say Sunday night.
Yeah, we tend to be about...
We're Sunday nighters.
Yeah, every week or every other week, depending on how active the board is and what's going on.
Wow. Okay, so Jill, you asked a doggone good question. I'm frustrated with having you guys email Catherine Truitt, because what you will get back is prevarication. I mean, it's not going to be honest. And so Carolina Journal seems to be wonderful, wonderful outlet. Let's see if they will. Let's see what their take is. I like Carolina Journal very much. And yeah, I mean, and I think maybe that's a good question. North State Journal is another outlet that you might want to write to and see if they're willing to cover, instead of cover up, to cover the chronology of the ever-changing Catherine Truitt. Let's see if we can get them to do some investigative reporting on how our tax dollars are being spent at the DPI.
Questions.
What's it? Let's make it simple. How are our tax dollars being spent at the DPI? And what are the results from those programs? Because I got to be honest with you, we could use a little help out here reporting.
Objective.
We need some help reporting.
You know, and ask the hard questions. What does this template even mean? Why weren't these issues brought up in January if you felt this way?
So children,
you know,
taxpayer dollars.
Why the difference between the first and second glossary? And I always like to just make it, well, as short as sweet as I can, although I'm not as good at slowing at that. But capturing the video or capturing the quote and sending it to them, whether it's from a tweet or whatever, so it's harder for them to not look at it and to kind of explain it away.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think great question here. I don't think emailing Catherine Truitt is going to bear any fruit. As we always say, we want you sharing our articles. We want to make darn sure that you're talking with your rep. You should have the phone number. Reps. Yeah, you should have the phone number of your reps, and you should be calling and saying, we want Jamie Falkenberry out. We cannot have somebody with a conflict of interest inside of the DPI. We deserve better than that. We deserve better than that. And so you need to have a long conversation with your reps. Get in front of them. Does anyone know where 324 is? You know, Kim, I'm kind of getting mad here because we have been told that 324 is not going to pass the Senate by Catherine Truitt. That's the only person on record.
Yeah, she later retracted that, I think.
Could that have been another misstatement? I don't know. But
yeah, Republicans absolutely, at this point in time in our culture, in our American culture, regardless of what they think Cooper
number one issue for Republicans,
They have to be on record. People have to be on record as being for these civil rights. And even further, I demand that they're on record for trying to get some support from centrist Democrats and working towards trying to override that veto. Find 3 Democrats who are willing to have a spine and say, this is way too far left, and we've gotten too far away from this.
It's simple. Stuff. What I would do, I know we're running late. We have a lot to say tonight. We have a lot to say. So what I would do is here's how we would do it, guys. Tell me what you think of this idea in front of all centrist and everybody, actually. What we should do is show this, and we're going to put this up on Facebook tonight. Show this to your rep and say, tell me how critical race theory is going to improve. This is 2019. Exactly. Tell me how that's going to improve. Tell me how the social studies standards are going to do that.
Yeah.
Tell me how teaching social studies standards, period, in kindergarten and first and second, how the hell is that going to help these scores?
How is teaching kindergarten about systemic racism and gender identity going to do anything?
The numbers don't lie. This is where we are here. Figures don't lie, but liars do figure.
Yeah. And email the Democrats and say, how do you see this?
This is something, by the way, this is an emergency. What I just showed you, this is an emergency, right? And it should be all hands on deck to reverse the trajectory of that. You know what they're playing with? Let's not grade the schools anymore.
Yeah.
Let's change the grades. If people show up for school, let's give them a good grade.
Yeah.
That's how they want to do it, instead of actually putting forth systems that will enable teachers to do their job and teach.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are we done?
I'm done.
We're done. Look for us on Sunday night. Okay. One more thing. Can you post that visual in a post comment, please? Rachel, yes, I'm going to do better than that. I'm going to tell you how I got that data so that you can get that data for yourself. And I'm going to put it on Facebook on our page right now. So I'm going to give you the graph, and then I'm going to give you how we got it so that you can share the original source. I guess, okay. Okay, good. Savannah? Good. Okay, Savannah is going to do this for us. She's going to put in a little outline. Okay, all right. Jill, coming at you.